Welcome my favorite people, the rare gems. The woman who does not require validation from anyone is the most feared individual on the planet, Mahadeva. Most people talk about strong women like it's a trending topic, using buzzwords and cliches that sound powerful, but say nothing real. But there's a rare kind of woman who doesn't just talk strength. She lives it quietly, intentionally, and unapologetically. She's the Sigma female. She's not a rebel for attention. She's not loud for effect. She doesn't need to prove herself because her life is the proof. And what makes her different isn't the way she looks, dresses, or speaks. It's what she chooses to do when no one's watching. It's the uncomfortable decisions she makes every day, decisions that most people avoid because they're inconvenient, lonely, or misunderstood. In a world that rewards fitting in, she doesn't flinch from standing alone. She'll walk away from relationships that no longer serve her, say no without an excuse, and evolve in silence, leaving behind people, places, and habits that feel safe but no longer feel right. These aren't dramatic choices. They're clean, sharp, and honest, and they disturb people who still live for approval. If you've ever felt out of place for protecting your peace, for not chasing clout, or for valuing depth over drama, then maybe you're not lost. Maybe you're just a Sigma in the making. Watch the video now and discover the 11 uncomfortable things only Sigma females do. Not to be admired, but to be understood. You're not too much. You're just not easy to control. Let's dive in, the rare gems. Number 1. Reject mentorship from people they don't respect. Here's something that really sets a Sigma female apart. She does not take advice just because someone has a fancy title or a long resume. She does not follow people she doesn't actually respect. And that alone makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Most people are conditioned to believe that if someone's older, more experienced, or in a position of power, you're supposed to listen. You're supposed to nod, take notes, and pretend you're learning, even if the advice is hollow, outdated, or rooted in ego. But not her. A Sigma female has a sharp internal filter. She watches how people behave, how they treat others when no one's watching, how consistent they are between what they say and what they do. She listens, not to their words, but to their character. And if she sees hypocrisy, laziness, manipulation, or just plain mediocrity hiding behind a polished image, she's out, quietly, instantly, without a second thought. This doesn't mean she's arrogant. It means she's intentional. She values alignment over appearance. She knows that mentorship isn't about status. It's about wisdom, integrity, and authenticity. And if someone doesn't embody those values, she won't fake reverence to keep the peace or climb the ladder. She doesn't mind walking the harder path if it means walking it with self-respect. And let's be real, this makes her a threat. People who rely on authority to feel powerful don't know what to do with someone they can't impress or intimidate. But that's the beauty of the Sigma mindset. Respect is earned, not given blindly. So if you've ever sat in a room listening to someone you're supposed to admire, but deep down felt like their words meant nothing to you, you're not wrong, and you're not difficult. You're discerning. Keep watching the video to discover more hard truths only Sigma females live by. You might just realize you've been one all along. Number 2. Sigma females don't compete with other women. One of the most quietly powerful things a Sigma female does is this. She refuses to compete with other women. And not because she doesn't think she can win, but because she sees the entire game as pointless. In a world that constantly encourages women to compare themselves, who's prettier, more successful, more liked, more followed, the Sigma female is the one who just doesn't play. She doesn't need to outshine anyone, because her sense of worth doesn't come from being better than. It comes from being real, aligned, focused. When she walks into a room, she's not scanning for rivals, she's scanning for authenticity. While others get caught up in silent battles for attention or validation, she's observing from the sidelines, investing her energy elsewhere. That quiet detachment, it unsettles people, especially those who need comparison to feel valuable. She doesn't throw shade, she doesn't gossip, she doesn't need to tear anyone down to stand tall. Her confidence is internal, private, earned, not granted by someone else's loss. So when other women try to bait her into competition, whether it's in the workplace, in social circles, or even over men, she simply opts out. Not because she's passive, Because she's evolved. And here's the wild part. Her refusal to compete actually makes her stand out even more. While others are busy playing for attention, she becomes unforgettable by not needing any. She makes her own lane, walks it in silence, and lets her results speak for themselves. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. She knows who she is. She knows what she brings. And she's not afraid to clap for other women because their success doesn't threaten hers. It confirms that it's possible. So if you've ever felt weird for not wanting to win over other women, or exhausted by the pressure to always measure up, maybe you're not falling behind. Maybe you're just a Sigma, and maybe you're finally ahead by choosing peace over performance. Number 3. Say no without buffering or explaining. Let's be honest, most people are uncomfortable with the word no, especially when it's said cleanly and without apology. But a Sigma female, she's mastered it. She doesn't soften the blow with maybe later, or I wish I could. She doesn't over-explain, overthink, or twist herself into emotional knots trying to make others feel better about her boundaries. When she says no, it's direct, calm, final. And for some people, that's downright shocking. We live in a world where women are expected to be agreeable, polite, and emotionally accommodating. Saying no is often treated like a personal attack, especially if it isn't dressed up with fake guilt or sugar-coated excuses. But the Sigma female refuses to carry that emotional labor. She knows that saying no is not rude, it's real. And she says it without flinching. She turns down invitations, opportunities, favors, and even relationships that don't feel aligned, and she does it without guilt. Not because she doesn't care, but because she values her time, energy, and peace more than she values being liked. And the best part? She doesn't circle back to see if people are okay with her no. She trusts that adults can handle disappointment. If they can't, that's not her burden to carry. This kind of firm boundary shakes people, especially those who are used to emotional loopholes or people-pleasing. Her refusal to over-explain makes her look cold to some, but to those who get it, it's refreshing. It's honest. It's a kind of self-respect that can't be faked. If you've ever said yes when you wanted to say no just to avoid awkwardness or conflict, you're not alone. But the Sigma female is here to remind us that peace is more valuable than approval. Her no isn't cruel, it's clear. And clarity, in a world full of mixed signals and emotional guesswork, is a kind of power most people aren't ready for. Number 4. Destroy their own comfort zones before life does. Most people cling to comfort like it's safety. They stay in predictable routines, familiar relationships, and steady jobs, not because they're fulfilled, but because they're comfortable. Not the Sigma female. She has a wild, rare instinct. When things get too easy, too quiet, too routine, she moves. She disrupts her own stability before life has to do it for her. This isn't chaos for chaos's sake. It's not self-sabotage. It's calculated evolution. She's hyper-aware of something most people ignore. Comfort breeds complacency. And for a Sigma, stagnation is a quiet kind of death. She would rather throw herself into the unknown than rot in a life that no longer challenges her. So she ends things that look fine on the outside. She walks away from relationships that aren't growing. She leaves jobs she's mastered. She switches paths, shifts gears, reinvents. Not because she's failing, but because she's outgrown the version of herself that once needed that situation. People around her often don't understand. They say, but everything was going so well. What they don't see is that well is not enough for her. She's not here to coast, she's here to evolve. This kind of self-destruction isn't reckless, it's sacred. It's the quiet burning of the old self to make room for something sharper, deeper, truer. She trusts that growth doesn't come wrapped in ease. It comes wrapped in discomfort, risk, and radical change. And instead of waiting for life to force that lesson, she chooses it first. So if you've ever felt the itch to change when everything seems fine, if you've ever torched your own comfort just to see who you could become, understand this. You're not crazy. You're a Sigma. And that fire in you, that's transformation, not destruction. Let it burn. Number 5. Value privacy over praise. A Sigma female moves through life with quiet confidence. She doesn't crave applause, attention, or validation. In fact, too much spotlight makes her uncomfortable, because her life isn't a performance and she's not auditioning for anyone's approval. While the world is increasingly obsessed with showing off, posting every move, announcing every win, and turning personal growth into public spectacle, she goes the opposite way. Her milestones are quiet, her success is private, and her peace, non-negotiable. That's not shyness, that's sovereignty. She doesn't need to be celebrated to feel proud of herself. She doesn't need likes to know her worth. She doesn't seek applause because she knows that doing meaningful work and living in alignment is reward enough. Everything else is noise. This makes her mysterious to some and even threatening to others, especially those who measure worth by visibility. But she's not hiding, she's just guarding. There's a difference. She understands that privacy is power, that some things are more beautiful when they're protected, not paraded. She's intentional about what she shares and who gets access. And that boundary? It makes her presence feel rare, real, respected. She'll disappear from the spotlight in a heartbeat if it means preserving her peace. Because for her, success isn't about being seen, it's about being whole. Not every chapter needs an audience, not every win needs a witness. She's not here to impress. She's here to live fully and freely. So if you've ever felt pressure to put your life on display just to prove you're doing well, don't. You don't owe the world a highlight reel. Protect your peace, move in silence. Let your life speak louder than your posts ever could. That's the Sigma way. Number 6, don't use feminine wiles, because they don't need to. The Sigma female doesn't flirt her way through life. She doesn't bat her eyelashes to get ahead, speak in a soft voice to soothe egos, or pretend to be helpless just to make others feel powerful. She doesn't play small, seductive, or sweet to make things happen, because she doesn't have to. She knows her value comes from her mind, her work ethic, her presence, and her ability to outthink, not outflatter, the room. And that's exactly why she makes people nervous. There are entire systems built around the idea that a woman should use charm, warmth, or submission as currency. A Sigma female refuses that transaction. She doesn't see her femininity as a tool for manipulation. She sees it as part of her wholeness, but it's not the reason she gets what she wants. She shows up prepared, direct, and precise. She lets her performance speak. She lets her logic lead. She walks into rooms where people expect smiles and softness, and instead they get substance. That throws people off, especially those who are used to women leading with flirtation instead of force. It's not that she can't be magnetic, she absolutely can. But her magnetism doesn't come from seduction. It comes from depth, from confidence that isn't performative, from not needing to be liked in order to be respected. And yes, some people will call her cold, unapproachable, too serious. That's fine. She's not here to be palatable. She's here to be undeniable. So if you've ever felt pressure to turn down your intensity or dial up your charm just to get ahead, pause. You don't need to play that game. Bring your power, not your performance. That's the Sigma way. Number 7, embrace being misfit royalty. The Sigma female isn't trying to fit in, and that's not a phase, it's a lifestyle. She's not rebellious in the loud, attention-seeking way. She's rebellious in the quiet, unbothered, elegant way that unnerves people more than shouting ever could. She walks through life like royalty without a crown, not because she's trying to prove she's above anyone, but because she refuses to shrink herself to fit into spaces that don't align with who she really is. She's not antisocial, she's post-social. She's moved past the need to belong for belonging's sake. If the vibe is fake, the values are missing, or the energy feels forced, she's out. No announcement, no drama, just gone. You won't catch her forcing conversations at parties she didn't want to attend. You won't find her jumping into trends just to feel included. She doesn't play the game of popularity, and she doesn't chase seats at tables that require her to beg for entry. She lives on the edge of society, not in isolation, but in freedom. There's power in her distance. Her silence says more than most people's noise. Her presence makes others feel both curious and a little unsettled. Why? Because she doesn't need to be seen to feel valuable. She's what you get when self-respect meets soul alignment. When elegance doesn't come from clothes or cash, but from knowing exactly who you are and refusing to edit that for anyone. So if you've ever felt like the outsider, the odd one out, the misunderstood thinker in a room full of noise, you're not broken. You're misfit royalty. And that quiet rebellion you carry, that's your crown. Wear it. Wear. Number 8. Prioritize impact over likability. A Sigma female is not here to be liked, she's here to leave a mark. That one mindset shift alone separates her from almost everyone else. In a world that trains women to be pleasant, agreeable, and non-threatening, the Sigma female makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because she chooses impact over likability every single time. If it comes down to making people comfortable or standing by what she believes in, she'll choose conviction. If it's between being popular or being honest, she'll choose honesty. Every time. She's not rude, but she's real. And that realness doesn't always come with smiles, approval, or applause. She's okay with that because likability, that's a game of surface-level politics. It's performative. It's constantly shifting based on who's in the room, who's watching, or who's offended. The Sigma female doesn't have the time or interest to manage all that noise. Her focus is deeper. Is her work meaningful? Are her values unshaken? Is the world better because she showed up with courage instead of compromise? If the answer is yes, she sleeps well at night, even if people whisper, criticize, or walk away. And the truth is, the world needs more women like her. Women who don't shrink themselves just to be digestible. Women who understand that being liked can be a trap, but being respected, even by a few, is real power. So if you've ever struggled between saying what's true and saying what's easy, take a page from the Sigma playbook. Be the woman who speaks up, who does the work, who stands firm, even if she stands alone. Because in the end, being liked fades, but making an impact, that echoes. Number 9. Treat friendships like contracts that expire. One of the most misunderstood behaviors of a Sigma female lies in how she manages her personal connections, particularly friendships. Unlike conventional approaches that prioritize longevity and sentimental loyalty, the Sigma female adopts a results-oriented, values-driven perspective. For her, friendships function much like contracts. They serve a purpose, align with her current values, and evolve with mutual respect and authenticity. When that alignment fades, so does the connection. This behavior is often misinterpreted as cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. In reality, it is rooted in a deep commitment to personal growth and integrity. The Sigma female does not maintain relationships out of obligation, nostalgia, or social pressure. If the dynamic becomes one-sided, toxic, or stagnant, she exits, quietly and decisively. There is no dramatic fallout, no emotional spectacle. Simply a recognition that the connection has served its time and no longer contributes to her trajectory. What differentiates her from others is the complete absence of guilt in this process. She recognizes that people change, paths diverge, and not all relationships are meant to be permanent. Rather than forcing bonds to endure through discomfort or incompatibility, she chooses detachment over dissonance. For her, self-respect is the threshold. Once that's crossed, whether through disrespect, dishonesty, or diminishing value, she does not hesitate to let go. This approach may appear transactional to some, but it is in fact strategic. By removing emotional clutter and maintaining relationships that are authentic and mutual, she preserves energy and clarity. This enables her to operate from a space of purpose, not obligation. In a society that often glorifies forever friendships, regardless of their actual health or relevance, the Sigma female's ability to release expired connections is not a flaw. It's an advanced form of emotional intelligence. It reflects an understanding that real loyalty includes loyalty to oneself. To explore more of these uncomfortable but empowering truths, watch the full video on what only Sigma females do differently. Number 10. Give feedback that cuts but heals. A Sigma female doesn't play nice just to protect your feelings. She's not in the business of sugarcoating the truth or offering compliments just to keep the peace. When she gives feedback, it cuts, but it heals. And that's exactly what makes her so rare and so unforgettable. She sees through the noise. While most people dance around uncomfortable truths out of fear, politeness, or ego, she goes straight to the root. If you're sabotaging yourself, she'll call it out. If you're playing small, lying to yourself, or staying stuck when you're capable of more, she won't smile and nod. She'll say what needs to be said, even if it stings. And yes, it will sting, because she points directly at the things you've been avoiding. The excuses you've been dressing up as reasons, the limits you've mistaken for reality. She doesn't deliver truth in soft packaging, but she doesn't speak to hurt you either. She speaks to awaken you. There's no ego in her honesty, no superiority, just clarity. Her feedback is blunt but never careless. It's not rooted in judgment, it's rooted in belief. She says hard things because she sees your potential, not just your problems. That's the part people often miss. After her words sink in and the pride fades, you start to realize she wasn't being harsh. She was being real. And in a world full of flattery and avoidance, that kind of raw honesty is shockingly rare. So if you've ever been challenged by a woman who didn't coddle you, who didn't let you hide behind your comfort zone, there's a good chance she was a Sigma. You might not have liked it in the moment, but deep down, you knew she was right. And sometimes the most powerful kind of support isn't soft. It's true. Number 11. Let others misunderstand them without correction. Here's something that completely throws people off about a Sigma female. She doesn't care if you misunderstand her. Seriously, she won't chase you down to explain herself, clarify her tone, or fix your version of the story. If you get her wrong, that's on you. Most people are obsessed with being understood. They want to be seen in a certain light, and they'll bend themselves into emotional gymnastics just to protect their image. Not the Sigma female. She's moved past the need for approval, and especially the need for permission to be herself. She knows that people are going to project, assume, and twist her silence or independence into whatever makes them feel better. Some will call her cold. Others will say she's too blunt, too detached, too confident, too mysterious. She lets them talk. She's not in the business of defending her character to people who don't truly know her. Why? Because she understands a powerful truth. Explaining yourself to the wrong people is wasted energy. Those committed to misunderstanding you aren't looking for truth. They're looking for control. And she won't give them either. This doesn't mean she's closed off or emotionally unavailable. It means she values peace over performance. She knows who she is. She knows her intentions. And that internal clarity is worth more than external validation. And here's the beautiful irony. The more she doesn't explain herself, the more people want to figure her out. But she never gives them that satisfaction. She'd rather be wrongly judged than slowly drained. So if you've ever been misunderstood and felt the urge to set the record straight, pause. Maybe you don't need to. Maybe letting people sit with their assumptions is exactly the kind of silent power move a Sigma would make. Conclusion. Being a Sigma female isn't about trying to be different for the sake of it. It's about being true to yourself, even when that truth doesn't sit well with others. It's about choosing growth over comfort, depth over popularity, and self-respect over fitting in. And yes, a lot of those choices can feel uncomfortable. That's the whole point. Every single thing we talked about today, saying no without sugarcoating, walking away from unaligned relationships, refusing to compete for attention, or valuing privacy over praise, isn't easy. It's not what most people expect. And it's not what society often rewards, but that's exactly why it's powerful. Because it takes real inner strength to choose yourself in a world that constantly tells you to be more agreeable, more available, or more likable. If any of these points made you pause, reflect, or even feel a little called out, that's a good thing. Growth lives in those moments of discomfort. Maybe you already do some of these things. Maybe you've been holding back. Either way, let this be your reminder. You don't have to be like everyone else to be whole, worthy, or successful. The Sigma path isn't loud, it's not flashy, but it's solid, quiet, unshakable. It's for the woman who doesn't just want to be seen, she wants to be real. So own your difference, protect your peace, and don't ever apologize for choosing what aligns with your truth. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you a Sigma. Thank you for watching The Rare Gems, and God bless you.